Well, that's good. But I was thinking in terms of format, we can just keep it super informal, and we can just talk a little bit about the builds here, and then kind of cut this loose and maybe go off, and if people want to look at, the World's Fair or the temple, we can all do that. There are three of us from the lab here. So it's all right, I'll just kind of jump in here so we don't keep it too long. Basically, we just wanted to have an opportunity to meet you guys. We've been with Avatar Reality and Mars for a while behind the scenes, on this build, and so we're happy to have it out here and have you guys explore it. So also, if you see anything as you're wandering around that you want to let us know about, if there's something going on that we should be aware of, please let us know. It's a very big build, and we probably will have another maintenance update maybe in a week or so, and we'll also, you've seen the file size, I do know it's pretty big, but there is a lot going on here. So it is the city itself, we activated about 2 kilometers of space, and mainly this first launch here is really builds that deal with historical recreations of the settings of some works of art that we laser scan for and so I came out of that research, and essentially what we wanted to do is problems for museum goers in that, I heard that too. I think there's a mic with some sound up. But, we're in visiting a museum, essentially, any kind of pre-modern sculpture was never intended to be in a museum, that it was originally part of an architectural context or, perhaps a remote location, like some of the Buddhas we scanned were in actually remote cave sites, cave complexes in China, where you literally had to make a pilgrimage to go see that. And now all of a sudden, as a museum goer, you see the work within the context of a 10 minutes, literally completely removed from its settings. So, a couple of the sculptures we scanned were from the 1915 World's Fair in San Francisco, and people can't hear me. Is that right?
No, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I'm hearing you. I can't hear your side. So what we did is we set out to start to recreate the context of the sculptures. They were originally part of these large fountains, which were in the center of the World's Fair, an area called the Court of the Universe. And so they're about 50 feet up in the air, and so now we've reset them in their original location, with simulated location. That build, like any World's Fair, was essentially a virtual world in and of itself. Those World's Fairs were, essentially what they called these white seats, where they were temporary for the most part. They were made out of temporary materials, a mixture of burlap and plaster that they called staff, and they were only meant to last for a short amount of time. Most of the fairs were for about a year, and they would tear them all down. But an exception to that, the only remaining structure with the World's Fair that's still up in San Francisco is the Palace of Fine Arts, which they actually rebuilt in 1965.
Cool.
And out of concrete. So if you've been there, that structure is standing, and we do have that simulated here as well. But the World's Fair site is actually all kind of residential and whatnot. So, but anyway, so it started off with those projects, and these are our first offerings in here, and we're currently in development on a few other projects. One is an open campus for educators to come in and engage Blue Mars as a learning platform. We're working on another historical simulation at the moment. The Linz study of Middletown America, 1920s, 1930s, Middle America, and we're creating a factory life prototype, but kind of a living museum concept, like colonial Williamsburg, where people are in costume and character, and you go back and ask them about their lives, that kind of thing. So that's in the works, and we have a number of art projects and more kind of future-looking projects as well that will be coming down the pipe. But this city will be devoted more to the historical recreation simulation kinds of works. So we wanted to open that up for you guys, and like I said, we have a couple of the developers with me on hand, Trevor and Neil, who are both around, and I think maybe what would be best is we could maybe open it up for questions a little bit, and we're free to go off and maybe look at certain builds. One of the things that we try to do here is really look quite closely at the engine itself, the car engine, and see what it was capable of. And so there's some fun things that we did. We got into a lot of parallax mapping and the terrain painting. And so if you look at things like along the shoreline, and especially with the very high settings, if you can handle it for a short amount of time, it's fun to kind of cam over the more terrain. The parallax mapping gives you a really pretty convincing sense of depth in a mesh for what simply is really a texture. So when you look at, let's say, a texture of a rock and you cam over it, you actually get quite a nice sensation of the dimensionality of it. So those things are kind of fun to explore. So why don't we open it up a little bit for some questions, and we can go from there. So you can either take the questions in voice or chat, I suppose. Okay. Okay, so I'll just kind of read the chat here and just kind of respond to this as we go. The Art Museum, we wanted to recreate a very specific gallery as accurately as we could. So we worked off measurements, photographs, and the architect's plans. We wanted it to be as representative of the actual space as we could. So we did a lot there with baked lighting and shadow as well. With trying to keep the look and feel of it as close to what we could. The idea was that you could capture an exhibit as it was installed and extend the audience for it through using some of the world than you could have just museum visitors alone, physically to the museum. So there's that. There's also the idea that you could archive the installation of the museum forever. In a sense, a museum could install a Jackson Pollock show, and a couple of years from now, obviously in a virtual world, but reinstall it, and you'd get a sense, of the first experience of that. This build you see here in front of you, I say mainly the three designers we have with us today, Trevor and then myself, and then our graphic designer who isn't here today, Ina. So probably the four of us were mainly responsible for what you're looking at here. Museum 2 we made right now just with Flash and HTML, just trying to make the paintings as accurate, as interactive as we could. So we created some intermediate web pages where you can click and get more information and drill down and kind of expand out in your investigation of each painting. So we created kind of more content than you'd normally get in a label experience for a painting, and then created some subsequent things to take you directly into the database in the museum. So if you really want to find out a lot of detail on something, you can get that. So the sculptures and paintings are all applicable, and then launch up kind of a information experience. Yeah, so I think museum for us is just really, in fact, all of this is really in a way kind of a prototype right now. So we're just kind of exploring some new techniques, getting comfortable with the scripting environment in here, learning, new techniques that are available and possible in this environment. And so yeah, I definitely want to extend on that, and as well as a lot of the ideas that to develop in here. We have, get into the flow graph somewhat, and we're getting some things to function, but the goal is to make everything that makes sense as interactive as possible. So as we get more comfortable in that environment, I think you'll see more and more kind of interactivity. I know the nice thing is, obviously with Flash you can do a lot, so we found some fun ways to kind of implement Flash and make at least some of the screen experiences interactive, and so we're exploring that, and we have some ideas for that as well, some further ideas. Any other questions? Yeah, I think, the ability to, bring in other, either remote locations or something in the past that doesn't exist. This whole idea of kind of a magic school bus, you can back in space or time, or inside a molecule, or whatever, outer space, that kind of thing. That always interests us. Yeah, in terms of teaching and learning in here, that's one of our next builds. Is we do want to, I mentioned this earlier, we do want to create, or we are creating, I should say, a open campus for any educator to come in and use. So that should be our next offering outside of this city. Yeah. There's also getting artists in here. So we're looking at that in the virtual artist in residence, that kind of thing. Bringing people in, getting them into the environment to develop. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing that myself. We host him in Second Life. We host his work there. He's our artist in residence there. I'm definitely talking to him about that. What we could do too is, if people want to go off and see separate builds, like I said, Trevor and Neil are here, and we could all kind of go off and maybe what we should do is somebody can go off to Panama and Japanese temple, Chinese temple, that kind of thing. And if you want to go around, that way people could be here to answer questions for you. There's lots of little cool things to discover in a lot of detail. Is, you want to go to Japan and cover China, or?
Yeah, sure.
And I can up to Panama. So probably we'll leave this built here, and then you can use the. Oh, I should mention that you haven't used these before.